Alrighty, hello there. Well, I'm Mace. This will probably be my first video, first proper video with audio and all that lot. So yeah, I've been playing obviously 10th edition 40k for a bit now, and as a faction of choice, I do quite like the Thousand Suns. I did have some T-Suns in 7th. I'm currently undergoing like repainting most of my stuff as well. Because back in the day, it was just a spray paint and then trim with a metallic sharpie, which will make most of you cringe, I'm sure. But I suppose it's no different to markers nowadays. Anyway, um, this video is going to talk about the September data slate in 2025, which is going to sound obvious if you're listening to it when this comes out, which I hope more than a couple of people will. So anyway, we'll jump into it. So, just in general, in case you don't play Thousand Suns, which I'm sure most of the people that end up watching this will be Thousand Suns players or have some understanding of them at any rate. So, we used to have, and when I say used to, I mean Codex release used to. So, when the Codex first released, we had an army rule which was called Cabal of Sorcerers. Cabal, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, uh, this basically gave us a psychic phase, like from 8th edition and so on. So at the start of the shooting phase, I could pick any model in my army with the ability called, as it says in the title, Cabal of Sorcerers on their data sheet. So this was pretty much all of the characters, 4,000 Suns, and Magnus and Araman, and also the sergeants, if you want to call them that, so the aspiring sorcerers in both the rubric and the scarab occult units. All of these units could manifest, attempt a ritual. Um, you had a list of 4 rituals that you could attempt. So you'd pick one of these rituals that you wanted to attempt, and the important bit here is you could pick a ritual that has been attempted to be cast, but has not been successfully cast. Uh, After that, you'd roll 2d6 to channel the, or you could roll an additional d6 after you've seen this result. This is called channeling the warp. If you roll your 2d6 and you get doubles or triples, nothing happens, whatever. As soon as you channel the warp and add that additional dice in, if you roll a double or a triple, even if you rolled a double or a triple on the initial roll, but you chose to add the dice in, you'll suffer D3 mortal wounds. Now, this was always played wrong. I say always. Quite a lot of the people I played against, or what have you, have played this wrong. I'll admit I originally played it wrong until I reread over the rules. You take those mortal wounds before allocating the spell's effects or the ritual's effects. If this means that you die, that's it. Your ritual isn't successfully cast. If you survive, you can allocate the ritual to the target, and off it goes. But this was the thing. Before, you could, in effect, melt your mind with your doubles or your triples. Go, whatever. I've got another sorcerer over here. I'll attempt. However, they have updated our rules here, and they've now changed it to, instead of just picking a ritual that hasn't been successfully cast, they've now changed it to a ritual that has not yet been attempted. So this means you only get one chance at each of the 4 rituals, which doesn't sound too bad. But I've always found that they're not as reliable as you'd think, the rituals. So I decided I'd go into it, and I'm okay at maths. I'm not the best at maths, so I'll try my best to explain this. I'm also not the best at explaining, so this might just be an absolute crap video that you don't understand, but we'll give it a go. So I decided I wanted to try and explain it through maths. So I wanted to look at the probability of casting a ritual. So the aim of this was we want to find the probability of rolling X or higher on a 2d6 the probability of rolling X or higher on 3d6, and then just to find the overall average probability for rolling rituals at their lowest and highest on the 2d6 and 3d6. So this is going to be the method how we're going to approach it. So the probability is going to be the sum of all the successful outcomes divided by 6. Sorry, no, I've already said it wrong. I've already made a mistake. So this is an example at the top, the first bit. So we can kind of ignore that for now. But anyway, we want to find the total number of possible outcomes. So for the top one, for a d6, there are 6 outcomes. There's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a 6. So there's 6 outcomes, 6 different faces. For a 2d6, there's 6 faces on your first dice and 6 faces on your second dice, and there's 36 total possible combinations. You can have a 1 and a 1, a 1 and a 2, a 2 and a 1, etc. Goes on. And then obviously it's the same for the 3d6, but instead of obviously being 2 dice, you've got the 3 dice, and now there's 6 possibilities on the first dice, 6 on the second, and 6 on the third. So there's going to be 216 possible outcomes. So for some of these, it's easiest to approach it from how many times is it going to be successful, and for others, it's going to be easier to attempt to find how many times it's going to be unsuccessful. What I mean by this is, for example, if you're looking for the probability of rolling, I don't know, let's say a 2 or higher, instead of going the probability of, no, I'm going to scrap that, sorry, because it's all the time on a 2d6. For example, on a 2d6, sorry, the probability of rolling a 3 or higher, well, you've got to find out how many outcomes make 3, how many outcomes make 4, 5, 6, all the way up, versus you could just look at how many outcomes do you get to make a 2 on 2d6, and then go, right, we'll take that away from 1, and that's the probability of rolling a 3 or higher on 2d6. It's just one way you do a little bit less. It makes it a little bit quicker and easier. And then we're going to divide the total number of possibilities there are that are successful by the total number of possibilities to get our probability. Right, so this is just a quick example, which I'm hoping should explain how we've gone about and created all the numbers. So the probability of rolling a 6 or higher, this is on 2 dice, so 2d6. So in this case, like I was just saying, it's actually easier to find the probability of rolling a 5 or less. There's less values to contend with. So in this scenario, we're going to look at, for example, here we've started with 2, because that's the lowest number we can roll on 2d6. So to roll a 2, we have to roll a 1 on our first dice and 1 on our second dice. There's no other way to make 2 with 2 dice. So there's one method to make it, and there's a running total of 1 method so far. Then to make a 3 on our dice, we can roll a 1 on our first dice, a 2 on our second dice. That's one possibility. And then we can roll a 2 on the first dice and a 1 on the second dice, which is going to give us 2 possibilities, which then gives us, in total, 3 possibilities that aren't a 6 or above. We're going to continue this all the way up to 5, because we're looking for what's not a 6 or above here, just to make the maths a bit quicker for us. So the probability of it being higher than 6 or higher is going to be equal to 1 minus 10, which is the total number of possibilities it's not 6, which is going to be 10 over 36. And after we do our maths, it's going to come out at 0.72 as, well, 0.722 as our probability. And if we want to get this into a percentage, we're going to times this value by 100. So it's going to be a 72%. 72.2% chance that we're going to roll a 6 or higher. So I hope that makes it understandable, or that you can see where we're coming from now. So we've gone ahead and done this for all the different rituals. So for Destiny's Ruin, this is our reroll ones to hit or full hit rerolls. So reroll ones is the 5, full hit rerolls is 10. The probability of rolling our reroll ones on a 5 or higher is going to be 83% on 2 dice, and it's going to be 98% on 3 dice. So it's almost guaranteed here to get the reroll ones off, which is quite nice to see. Especially seeing as factions like Space Marines get Oath of Moment, which is full rerolls. Then the slightly more troubling number to me is if we want to get full hit rerolls, so we in effect want our own Oath of Moment, we're going to need to roll at least a 10 or higher on 2 or 3 dice. Well, that's a 16%, call it a 17% rounded, 17% chance that we're going to roll our full hit rerolls on 2 dice. A 17% chance that we get our faction ability. Okay, let's try and make it a bit better. We'll roll that third dice in. Now there's a 62% chance again, well, 62.5% chance, let's round it. 63% chance that we're actually going to get our faction ability here. Just let that sink in for a second. This is Oath of Moment, in a way. Yeah, this is, in essence, Oath of Moment, when you think about it. Factions like Blood Angels, all of your, I believe it's Divergent, I can't remember the exact wording, all of your Divergent chapters, your non-Codex compliant chapters, Blood Angels, used to be Black Templars, not anymore, Dark Angels, etc. Their Oath of Moment is just full hit reroll, right? They have that guaranteed. We have to roll to see if we can get our Oath of Moment. Admittedly, we can roll for other things, but we've got a 63% chance, being optimistic, of getting Oath of Moment. Moving on, Temporal Surge. This is the D6 move or the flat 6 move if you roll high enough. Looking for a 6 to cast at its base. That's a 72% chance on 2 dice and a 95% chance on 3 dice. Okay, looks pretty good. We're almost again guaranteed to get it off at our base value with 3 dice, and we've still got good odds of getting it off on 2 dice. However, if we want the guaranteed move of 6, we're going to have to roll a 10 or higher on our dice, which is going to be a 16.6% chance, 6-7. Let's call it 17% chance on 2 dice, and again, rounding, we're looking at a 63% chance on our 3 dice. You'll notice this is the same as the previous slide because they're both on 10s. Again, this is in addition to we're getting this bonus. But again, if you look at this is in effect giving 1 unit an advance, giving 1 unit assault for a turn. If you look at, again, going back to Space Marines, factions like Ultramarines, most of their shooty stuff has assault on it anyway. Most of our stuff doesn't have assault on it. Again, I'll let that sink in. One of our army faction abilities is to give a unit assault. On a 63% chance, we get a flat 6 move, and then just to give a unit assault, we're looking at a 95% chance. This is in effect assault, but okay, we'll move on again. The probability of Doombolt, again on the screen, looking for a 7 or an 11. For the lower cast, getting our D3 mortal wounds, we're looking for a roll of a 7 or higher on our 2 or 3 dice. On our 2 dice, we're going to have a 58% chance, and on our 3 dice, we've got a 90% chance. So it's, again, pretty guaranteed that it's going to go off at the lower value if we roll our 3 dice. And obviously now with the changes, you're going to want to roll your 3rd dice because you only get 1 attempt at each ritual instead of multiple attempts but 1 successful cast. If we want to get our D3 plus 3, we're going to have to roll an 11 on our dice. So if we want to get this off with 2 dice, there's an 8.33% chance. there's an 8% chance we're going to get it off on 2 dice, which is slim. It's okay. We've got a third dice. Oh, it's a 50-50. Okay, so it's a 50-50 on whether we can do a worse grenade, in effect. Finally, we've got Twist of Fate. So Twist of Fate is our additional AP. Give a unit, when we target a unit with it, that unit, everything that shoots it gets a bonus AP of 1 or a bonus AP of 2, depending on what we roll. If we want that bonus AP of 1, we're going to have to roll a 9 or higher. So this is going to be a 27.78% chance on our 2d6. And on our 3d6, we're looking at about a 74.07% chance. So again, it's likely that we're going to get it off at its lower cast value. And then if we're looking for the higher cast of a 12 or higher, we're looking at a 2.78% chance on 2 dice and a 37.5% chance on 3 dice. So this one is rarely going to go off on its maximum values here. Now, I haven't taken into account here anything like Magnus's +2 to cast, Mutalith Vortex Beast, Saruman, and some of the enhancements, etc. But overall, in general, we're looking at a 60.42% chance of getting a ritual off at its lower value on 2 dice. So slightly over half the time we're going to get our rituals off just rolling 2 dice for them all. And we're looking at pretty much rounded to 90% of the time we're going to be getting our effects off on our 3 dice. This is for the lower values. So the lower values are not guaranteed, but almost guaranteed. The higher values, obviously, this is going to be a little bit harder to get them on a 2. On the 2 dice here, we're looking at an 11.11% chance. Very rare that you're going to get the higher values off rolling 2 dice. So you're going to roll that third dice in, and you're looking at 53.125. You're looking at a 53% chance. You're flipping a coin to see whether you can get the better abilities off here. At the end of the day, that's what it is. You're flipping a coin to see whether you can do your higher level spells here. So, what's the outcome of these changes that they've just implemented? Well, now you're only going to get 1 attempt at each ritual. So, as I've said here, there's no fishing for a good roll. What do I mean by this? Well, before you used to have 3 to 4 rubric squads, 3 to 4 characters with them. That's 6 different attempts. You could go, I've rolled a 1 and a 2 there. I'm not going to get anywhere. I've rolled a 1 and a 1. I'm going to take mortal wounds if I go for that third. I'll let that fail. Oh, I've rolled a something. I'm going to let that fail. I've just rolled a 9. I'm going to go for this. I'm going to roll the third dice in because I'm guaranteed to get somewhere. Now it's just you get it or you don't. There's no fishing. There's no, I'll see if I can get a better roll. It's you get what you get. So this is going to lead to less abilities going off in general. Because it's 1 attempt at each thing. So you could roll double 1 like I just said. And instead of going, I'll try with the next bloke. Nope. You've got double 1. You either let it fail or you go for it. And on a double 1, you're not going to want to go for it because you're going to do more harm than good. So this is kind of suggesting then that we're going to want modifiers. We're going to want help getting these rolls. So we're going to want Magnus, who gets 2 casts instead of 1, which is great. And he gets to add 2 to the result, which is even better. So Magnus is looking great. Araman, he only gets 1 cast, which is okay, like everyone else. But he's going to get +1 to that cast. Again, this is great to see. Mutalith Vortex Beast, an aura of +1 to casting. Another great thing. This is just going to make it slightly easier to get all of our effects off. If people want me to go in depth and do all of the probabilities with people like Magnus affecting the Merriman, Mutalith, etc., I'm more than happy to go ahead and do that. There's also some enhancements in the different in the different detachments that can give you +1 or rerolls and stuff. Again, if someone wants me to go in depth, I'm more than happy to go in depth and do some analysis of those. But there's ways to get help, and these are going to be a almost guaranteed requirement now to get your abilities off. So just a general look. Again, I do play a little bit of Space Marines. Not saying I'm a world-class Space Marine player. Again, I play a bit of Thousand Suns. Again, not saying I'm a world-class Thousand Suns player. But I know enough about them to know roughly what they do. So I'm just going to do an analysis against Ultramarines. Just a very rough, quick analysis. So Ultramarines get Oath of the Moment. We get Rituals. They get Gilliman, who can give them an oath on 2 things. We get Magnus, who can do 2 casts. So they're both the Primarchs. They're both Primarchs for the respective factions. So Oath of the Moment's going to give you full rerolls to hit and a +1 to wound. And Rituals, on the other hand, are going to give you reroll 1s or a full hit reroll. Now, if we remember back, I'm going to run all the way back. Destiny's Ruin, here we go. So, for Oath of Moment, which I just said, we're looking at rolling a 10 or higher. A 16%, well, I'll call it again, we're round, a 17% chance of getting it off on 2 dice, and a 63% chance of getting it off on 3 dice. We have a 50-50 to get our reroll hits, which is Oath of Moment. We only get it against 1 target. Space Marines only get it against 1 target, but if they're bringing Gilliman, they're going to get it off on 2 targets. Now, Codex compliant Space Marines are also going to get this +1 to wound, like I've mentioned here. We're not going to get any +1 to wounds, really. There are ways to get it, but I'm just going to gloss over those because they're datasheet abilities, not sort of faction-y abilities here. So the bonus we get a bonus AP instead, which was the last one we went over. There we are. We're looking at a 2, well, again rounding, 3% chance of getting it off on 2 dice, or a 37 rounded to 38% chance of getting it off on 3 dice. So we've got a 38% chance of getting that off on AP2. Odds are we're going to get it off at AP1 if we're going to go for it. In effect, this is just doing what Oath of the Moment does. It's just changing it around a little bit. So instead of getting the bonus in our wounding stage, we're getting the bonus in our saving stage. Instead of wounding a little bit better, they're saving a little bit worse. They're roughly going to cancel out. Unless they've got inbuns, which at the moment are very prevalent. Most of our stuff's AP2. Most of the stuff in the game has a 4-up inbun. If it's got a 4-up inbun, AP2 is going to put them on it most of the time. AP3 is not really required. Anyway, moving on from sort of Oath of the Moment. They're going to get it on 2 if they're Ultramarines, or they're going to get it on 1 thing. We can spread ours out, though, I suppose. So we could, in effect, have 1 unit that's -1 or -2 to its saves, and then we can have another unit that's got rerolls on. But realistically, if we're just comparing those two, I'd go Space Marines over Rituals. Next up, we're looking at Doombolt. Well, we've got a Doombolt. It's D3 or D3 +3 mortal wounds to a unit. Again, we've got to cast it. We've just gone over the statistics of this. If we're looking at Ultramarines, or Space Marines in general, they've got lots of ways to get a free CP or a bonus CP. We don't have a way to get free CP or a bonus CP unless we're discarding objective cards, which was great when challengers were a thing, because you'd go, oh, I'll just discard this because I know I can get a challenger in a bit, but they're kind of out the window now, so we're having to discard victory points to get CP. Or the other way we're going to get it is by running the Demons attachment, which isn't the best. It's workable, but it's by no chance good. And I've got to roll a leadership on Kairos Fate Weaver. So versus the Space Marines, they've got captains, they've got Gilliman, they've got Marnius Calgar, they've got loads of ways to get that extra CP. A grenade to them is like a Doom Bolt to us. Except for the fact that their grenade is going to go off most of the time. Our Doom Bolt is going off some of the time, and then we're doing some wounds. Their grenade's doing some wounds, but it's guaranteed. There's no roll. We're having a roll to roll. Anyway, you may say, yes, you've got access to grenades. Only on some of our characters do we have access to grenades. So we don't really actually have access to grenades. We can do it, it's just we've got to have characters to do it. Which I'm saying you kind of do to get it for free, but on to the next one. We get a bonus move from our ritual, really nice. Either a reactive, either a D6 or a flat 6. But most Space Marine units have assault anyway. So realistically, we're giving assault to a unit versus the whole army pretty much having assault. Okay, so at the moment we've pretty much got the same stuff that Space Marines have, but worse, because we have to roll to see if we can get it, versus they've got it. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to suggest is all of this stuff helps us shoot, and we're very good at shooting, but that's kind of where we stop and pass the turn on after we've done our shooting. Terminators usually really good at shooting and melee, as have swords that can only just about deal with power armor. Oh, Terminator, 50-50 on whether I wound you. Anything tougher than a Terminator? Not a chance. All of our standard infantry? Not the best. Yes, we've got access to Mauler Fiends and Hellbrutes, etc., but we've got no real special rules on these. They're just kind of there. Yes, you can charge a bit better on the Mauler Fiend and stuff, but we're not really that good at two phases. Look at things like the World Eaters nowadays. They've got a really good shooting platform and really good melee around it. I'm talking about, if you don't know, they're Forge Fiend. So we're very monophasal as an army. We kind of just want to shoot, and then that's kind of us done. We can do a bit of melee, but we're not really there for it. Things like Ultramarines and other Space Marine factions, they've got very, very good shooting platforms in things like the Hellblasters, Eradicators, most of their tanks. Then they've got a lot of good infantry that can do some fighting. Most of their characters are good at fighting. Most of ours dabble, and I say dabble, we have AP1 D3 damage versus Power Fists, even Power Swords at AP2 damage too. There's no real comparison in melee damage here. So we're looking at a monophasal army with all of its army abilities, not army abilities, faction rules, being a roll to see if you can actually do them, which we've just established is pretty much 50-50. And then that all applies to one phase. And then after that phase, we're pretty much done. Versus Oath of Moment, etc. on the Space Marines that lasts not only for the phase, not only for the turn, but right around until you reselect it in your command phase. This applies to Overwatch. As don't apply to Overwatch, as is done after you've done shooting. If as stuck around till the end of round, or till the start of your next shooting phase, I think this would be a just change, that making them one attempt at each. Anyway, on to the next slide. So, a bit of an analysis of what's happened. Was it really broken before? Like we've just said, we're really powerful into 1 to 2 units, but that's no different to Double Oath Ultramarines, Double Oath Deathwatch, or even orcs. It's a weird one to suggest orcs, but orcs get one turn of really good into doing everything. We're really good into one unit, possibly two if you get AP on one thing and rerolls on another, and you've got your flamers going one way or your bolters going another way. That's another issue. Quite a lot of the time you see flamers. They want the bonus AP and not the rerolls. Anyway, was it really broken when we're getting really powerful into one, maybe two units, and then Ultramarines are getting it guaranteed into two? Was it really that broken? Not sure. I didn't think it was. I actually thought it was a little bit underpowered, to be fair. But anyway, buff to the Terminator Sorcerer, however. So they've changed him now to, at the start of the shooting phase, he selects, instead of after he's shot. I can't actually now remember if each guy gets to do it. I think they do. But anyway, even if it's just one, we've in effect made our Scarabs shooty Death Shroud. If you look at Death Shroud and you look at our Scarabs, we're slightly pricier, but we're doing the same job. We drop in, shoot one unit to death, charge a unit and do a bit of damage. Look at Death Shroud, they drop in, they flamer a unit, do a bit of damage, charge it and destroy it. We're just shooting Death Shroud. So I'm looking forward to testing them out. I mean, I used to use them before. I used to use 3 units. I used to quite like Hex Warp. I used to have 3 units of 5 with sorcerers, and the sorcerers would have to shoot each other's targets, if that makes sense. You'd have Scarab 1 drop in, have his sorcerer and Terminator armor shoot Scarab 2's unit. So when Scarab 2's unit goes to shooting, they get a load of bonuses. And then Scarab 2's sorcerer would shoot Scarab 3's target, so they get a load of bonuses. Anyway, I think our Scarab's going to be really good now. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of lists with 2 or 3 units with the characters. Magnus and Araman, they're okay models, to be fair. They're not the best, but they're kind of required nowadays for reliable Doom Bolts and Twists of Fate. We need those modifiers. We need that help in getting off our abilities at the higher levels, especially with we're only allowed to cast each thing once, or attempt to cast each thing once, I should say now. It's not cast each thing once, it's attempt to now, which is really bad, but it's what we've got, and it's what we're going to have to deal with. I think we're going to see a lot more variation in detachments now, with some increases in points in Grand Coven. A lot of the units that were taken in Grand Coven have gone up in points. It's not as viable as it used to be. It's still viable. It's still really good. We're just looking at Grand Coven lists realistically losing 1 Mutalith, maybe some Bogopes, and not much change there. However, I think some other detachments may see some more usage. So Araman also, I think, will get used in more lists now because of his +1 to casting. So looking through the codex, I had a look through the codex. I actually did, for once. So looking through the codex, I was looking for ways to make casting slightly better. So we've got enhancements and we've got some strats. So obviously Grand Coven's got its reroll strat for your casting, which is quite nice. We've got the Diabolical Servants enhancement, which is going to give you a +1 to casting. And this is in Change Host of Deceit. So just to read this one out, Thousands infantry model only. While the bearer is within 6 inches of 1 or more friendly scintillating legions units, each time the bearer channels the warp, add 1 to the psychic test. Basically, stay close to demon, get your 4+ invuln, get better cast. Pretty nice. Think that's pretty good. Araman, that, and a Magnus. You're looking at getting Doom Bolt off and Twist of Fate off with Magnus. You're looking at the other two with Araman and whoever's got that enhancement. Then we're looking at Warpmail Dagger. This is from Warpmail Pact. This one, in essence, you roll a dice. Specifically, looking at D3, you're going to take D3 mortal wounds, and if you're not destroyed, you're going to add 1 to the psychic test for each mortal wound you suffer. However, this can only go on Zangor Shamans, so Zangor Shamans have just had a little bit of a change. They've gone up by 5 points. They've had no other rules changes other than going up by 5. They have, I can't remember how many wounds they have. Why can't I remember how many wounds they have? Zangor Shamans, where are you hiding in my book? I can't even find them in my book. Why can't I find them? One of these days I'll find them. Zangor Shaman, there we go. All the way at the back. So they got 4 wounds. So if you're unlucky, you get 1 go at this, and then the second time kills you. On a good day, you can get this off 2 times, maybe. I'd say on average, get it off 2 times. But bad day, you get it off once. I think it's really good for a 1-turn thing, maybe 2-turn thing. Getting a +2 or a +3, yeah, possibly useful. Not my favourite though. Warp Siphon, I think this is another good one. Put it on a unit. This is from the vehicle. Pardon me, from the vehicle detachment from the Warpforged Cabal. So Warp Siphon, it's going to go on any Sorcerer 1000 Suns model. If you're within 6 inches of a friendly 1000 Suns vehicle, every time you channel the warp, after you roll the additional d6, but before checking for doubles or triples, you can use the enhancement, and if you do, select one of those vehicle units, so one of the vehicles that's within 6 inches of you, that suffers 1 mortal wound, and then you're going to re-roll that additional d6. The key bit here is you re-roll the additional d6. So if you've rolled crap to start with, it's not going to help you. So out of all of these, the Demon's Detachment's Diabolical Savant is probably the best. So I was looking around at some alternate ways to get slightly better at casting. So you could run, for example, 2 to 3 Demon Princes, and then have a 10-man rubric squad, and then deliberately get the Aspiring Sorcerer killed, which is going to get the Demon Princes a +1 to their cast. And then you're going to have an Exalted Sorcerer attached. I'd recommend, if you're going to try this, have a 10-man, just makes it harder to kill the whole unit. That 10-man unit is going to have stealth and a 4+ invent, and then he's going to bring a model back more times than not in the command phase. So turn 2, you're aiming basically to get the Aspiring Sorcerer killed twice to get 3 Demon Princes casting at a +2. It's going to be difficult to do. It's going to be absolutely telegraphed. Your opponent's going to know. If they know anything about 1000 Suns, they're going to know what you're trying to do. Not the best option. Other way of doing this would be to have, again, your 2 to 3 Demon Princes and throw out some Zangor Shamans. They can do some casting. They're going to get killed. Buff them guys up. Issue with this again, they're 60 points now. They're a bit more expensive, so not sure if that's worth it. So that's going to be the end. I hope it's been useful. I really do. I might do another video depending on if this is successful, going a bit more in depth into probabilities of our casting with some modifiers attached to them. Again, I might also do a video on the points changes. Just give me a message, give me a like, comment, whatever. See if it's popular. If it's popular enough, I will give it another go. If not, I might not. We'll see. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are, and goodbye.